The battle had ended hours ago, but Kodu still lay in the crater, his specialized armor cracked and one limb barely functioning. The genetic modifications that made him an elite war dog of the Tuk Empire now struggled to keep him alive. His enhanced senses picked up the sound of his handlers speaking nearby. "This unit is damaged beyond repair," said Commander Guan, his voice cold and efficient. "Leave it. We have replacements ready for deployment." Kodu's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. He had served for 7 years, completed 43 successful missions, and earned 12 commendations. Now, after one failure, he was being discarded like broken equipment. Lieutenant Han nodded. "Agreed. Its neural degradation has begun anyway. The modifications are breaking down." As their footsteps faded and the transport hummed to life, Kodu realized the truth. The pain in his body was nothing compared to the new sensation in his artificially enhanced mind. Betrayal. Pain shot through Kodu's body as he tried to move. One of his 6 legs was completely useless, dangling at an odd angle. His internal systems ran diagnostics automatically. The results were not good. His primary heart was functioning at 47% capacity. His secondary heart had failed completely. The neural enhancements that allowed him to process battlefield information at incredible speeds were degrading. Without the chemical stabilizers his handlers normally injected, his body would break down in less than a week. Kodu lifted his massive head and looked at the battlefield around him. Bodies of both Tuk soldiers and their enemies lay scattered across the smoking landscape. He had fought well. His unit had completed their mission objective, defending the mining facility until reinforcements arrived. But when a hidden explosive had detonated beneath him, the damage had been too severe. Night fell on the alien planet. Kodu's thermal vision allowed him to see the heat signatures of small native creatures emerging to scavenge among the dead. He growled, and they kept their distance. Even wounded, heat was the apex predator here. Memories flashed through Kodu's enhanced mind. He remembered the training facilities where he was born, the pain of the modifications as they were grafted onto his natural body, the pride he felt when Commander Guan first selected him for the elite strike force, the rush of combat, the satisfaction of successful missions. For 7 years, he had been the perfect weapon, loyal and efficient. Now he was garbage. Kodu's bio-armor, normally a sleek black with glowing blue veins of energy, had dulled to a dark gray. The energy pathways flickered weakly. He needed to find shelter and conserve what strength remained. With enormous effort, he pulled himself up onto his 5 working legs and began to limp away from the battlefield. By dawn, Kodu had managed to drag himself nearly 2 kilometers to a small cave in a rocky hillside. His energy reserves were dangerously low. He collapsed inside the cave entrance, his massive frame barely fitting through the opening. Here, at least, he would be hidden from scavengers and the harsh sunlight of this planet. As he lay there, new sensations began to filter through his consciousness, emotions that had no place in a war dog's mind. Confusion, anger, sadness. The Tuk had engineered his kind to feel only aggression, loyalty, and satisfaction in victory. These new feelings were frightening and strange. The second day, fever took hold. Kodu's body temperature rose dangerously high as his system fought against the breakdown of his genetic modifications. He drifted in and out of consciousness, hallucinating battles that had long passed. In his delirium, he whimpered like a common animal, something he had never done before. By the 3rd day, Kodu could barely move. His body was shutting down systematically. The fail-safes built into his genetics were working exactly as designed. A war dog that could not return to its masters would not survive to be captured by enemies. His 4 eyes, usually bright yellow, had dimmed to a pale amber. His breathing came in ragged gasps. On the 4th day, as Kodu lay waiting for death, his still-functioning auditory enhancements picked up something new. Voices, not the harsh, commanding tones of the Tuk, but softer sounds. a language he had heard only a few times before. "Humans. The battle site should be just ahead," said a male voice. "Remember, we're here to document war crimes, not engage with any remaining forces." "I understand the mission parameters," replied a female voice. "But my scanner is picking up something unusual. A life form with extremely complex biological readings." Kodu tried to retreat further into his cave, but his body refused to respond. His training told him that humans were enemies to be eliminated, but he had no strength left to fight. "Over here," called the female voice. "Closer now. Something's alive in that crater." Footsteps approached. Kodu managed to lift his head slightly. Through the cave entrance, he saw a small human female pointing a device in his direction. Her eyes widened as she spotted him. "Dr. Yuna, be careful," called another human, a male with protective gear. "That's a talk war animal." The female, Dr. Yuna, moved closer despite the warning. Kodu growled weakly, baring his triple rows of teeth. It was a pathetic threat display, and they all knew it. "Look at its condition," Dr. Yuna said softly. "It's been abandoned, left to die." "Good," said the male human. "Those things have killed thousands of our people." Dr. Yuna knelt down, still maintaining a safe distance. "This isn't just an animal. The Tak modify these creatures with advanced biotechnology and neural enhancements. They're semi-sentient." Kodu watched her warily. No human had ever looked at him with anything but fear or hatred before. This one seemed curious, concerned, even. "Its life signs are failing," she said, looking at her device. "Without intervention, it won't survive another day." "That's not our problem," the male human replied. "The mission is to document and report back." Dr. Yuna stood up slowly. "Part of our mission is to gather intelligence on Tak military assets. This creature is a gold mine of biological data." She paused. "And it's suffering." Kodu's vision began to blur. His systems were entering final shutdown. The last thing he saw before unconsciousness took him was the human female reaching toward him with determination in her eyes. Dr. Yuna approached the cave slowly. The scanner in her hand showed complex readings unlike anything in their database. The creature hiding inside was not a normal animal. Its biology was a mix of natural and artificial parts. "Stay behind me," Security Officer Jun said. He held up his energy shield, ready to protect them both. His face was tight with worry. "That's a talk war animal in there. They make these things to kill." "I know what it is," Yuna said quietly. "But look at these readings, Jun. Its systems are failing. It's dying." The rest of the human team hung back, watching nervously. They had come to this planet to study the aftermath of the battle, not to interact with deadly talk weapons. "Those creatures have killed hundreds of our colonists," Jun reminded her. "They're programmed to attack anything that isn't talk." Yuna nodded but kept moving forward. She had been studying alien biology for 15 years. This was the first chance anyone had to examine a talk war animal up close. "Just cover me," she said. "I need to see it." As Yuna reached the mouth of the small cave, she could finally see the creature clearly. It was massive, nearly twice her size, with 6 legs and a body covered in black armor-like plating. 4 yellow eyes glowed dimly in the shadows. The war dog's sides heaved with labored breathing. When Kodu saw the human approach, something ancient and programmed stirred in his mind. Enemy. Kill. Attack. His muscles tensed, but his body was too weak to respond. He managed only a low, threatening growl, showing 3 rows of sharp teeth. "It's trying to scare us off," Jum said, raising his weapon. "No," Yuna said, holding up her hand. "Look at it. It can barely move." She knelt down just outside the cave entrance, beyond the war dog's reach. "I think I understand what happened. It was injured in the battle, and the talk left it behind." Kodu watched the human female with confusion. His training had taught him that humans were soft targets, easy to kill, but this one showed no fear. She was looking at him with curiosity. No one had ever looked at him that way before. "Everyone stay back," Yuna called to the rest of the team. "I'm going to try something." She reached into her pack and pulled out a medical kit. Slowly, she removed a small device and held it up so the war dog could see it. "This is a biostabilizer," she explained, though she knew the creature couldn't understand her words. Her tone was calm and even. "It might help slow down whatever is happening to your systems." Kodu's enhanced hearing picked up the gentle sounds of her voice, different from the harsh commands of his talk handlers. He growled again, but with less energy. Yuna placed the device on the ground and pushed it toward the cave with a stick. Then she backed away. Kodu sniffed at the strange object. His sensors detected no explosives or toxins, just a simple medical device. He looked back at the human, confused. "We'll set up camp here tonight," Yuna told the team. "I want to monitor its condition." "You're risking all our lives for that thing?" asked researcher Suk, shaking his head. "Think about what we could learn," Yuna argued. "The Tak have never allowed study of their war animals. This could help us understand their biological technology." As darkness fell, the team set up their shelters and security perimeter. Yuna established her monitoring station closest to the cave, against Jun's advice. Every hour, she checked her scanner, watching the war dog's life signs slowly stabilize. The biostabilizer seemed to be helping, at least temporarily. Kodu drifted in and out of consciousness. The human device attached to his side was sending small pulses of energy into his body, slowing the breakdown of his systems. He didn't understand why these humans were helping him. In his confusion, he missed the warning signs until it was almost too late. Just past midnight, Kodu's senses detected movement outside the cave. Not human. Something else. Something hunting. His nostrils flared, picking up an acidic scent. One of the native predators of this world. A six-legged hunter with poisonous saliva that could dissolve metal. Normally, such a creature would be no match for a Tak war dog. But in his weakened state, Kodu was vulnerable. The predator crept closer to the camp, its body low to the ground. It wasn't interested in the war dog. It was stalking the sleeping humans. Specifically, it was moving toward Yuna's shelter. Kodu tried to rise, to roar a warning, but could only manage a weak growl. The sound wasn't loud enough to wake the humans. The predator tensed, ready to pounce on Yuna's sleeping form. Kodu watched helplessly as it leaped forward. A flash of light cut through the darkness. Yuna, who hadn't been sleeping at all, fired her pulse rifle directly at the attacking creature. The shot hit the predator mid-jump, sending it crashing to the side. But it wasn't dead. The wounded predator hissed in rage and turned toward Yuna, who was scrambling to her feet. It sprang again, too quickly for her to aim. Yuna dove to the side, but not fast enough. The creature's claws slashed her arm. Yuna cried out in pain as the camp erupted into chaos. Jun and the others were rushing to help, but they were too far away. The predator crouched for another attack. Yuna raised her rifle with her good arm, but the creature was too close, too fast. Suddenly, a black shape hurled from the cave entrance. With strength born of desperation, Kodu had forced his failing body to move. He crashed into the predator, knocking it away from Yuna. The two animals rolled across the ground, snarling and clawing. Even in his weakened state, Kodu's genetically enhanced muscles gave him an advantage. He pinned the native predator down and sank his teeth into its neck. The creature thrashed and sprayed acidic saliva, some of which hit Kodu's already damaged armor. He held on until the predator went still. When it was over, Kodu collapsed beside his kill, exhausted. The effort had drained what little energy he had left. Yuna approached slowly, clutching her injured arm. Her eyes met Kodu's 4 yellow ones across the smoky aftermath of the battle. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Something shifted in Kodu's engineered brain. This human had been ready to protect her pack, and now he had protected her. It went against everything he had been taught about humans being enemies. Yuna knelt beside the war dog, ignoring Jun's shouts to stay back. She pulled a medical patch from her kit and, with slow, deliberate movements, placed it on Kodu's wounded leg where the predator's acid had burned through. To everyone's shock, the war dog did not resist. He watched her curiously as she treated his wound, then gently checked the biostabilizer still attached to his side. "You saved my life," Yuna said softly. "Thank you." Kodu didn't understand the words, but he recognized the tone. It was gratitude, something his talk handlers had never expressed. By morning, the camp was divided. Half wanted to leave the war dog behind, arguing it was still dangerous. The other half, led by Yuna, insisted on bringing it with them. "It protected me," Yuna argued. "It made a choice to help. That suggests a level of intelligence and decision-making the talk have never admitted to." June looked skeptical but thoughtful. "If you're right, that makes these creatures victims, not just weapons." Kodu watched the humans argue, understanding their tones if not their words. His systems were still failing, but more slowly now thanks to Yuna's care. For the first time in his life, he felt something new. Not the satisfaction of completing a mission, but something deeper. Connection. "You brought that thing aboard." Captain De's voice echoed through the research vessel's medical bay. His face showed both anger and fear as he looked at the massive alien war dog lying unconscious on the examination table. Yuna stood her ground despite the captain's loud voice. Behind her, June and two other security officers kept their weapons ready. The war dog's 6 legs were strapped down, and a breathing mask covered part of its face. "It would have died, Captain," Yuna said firmly. "And I believe it's showing signs of higher thinking than the talk have ever admitted to." Captain Da walked closer to the table, studying the alien creature. Kodu's black armored skin now had patches of gray where his systems were failing. His 4 eyes were closed as the ship's medical computers worked to keep him alive. "These war dogs have killed thousands of our people," Captain Da said. "They're walking weapons designed to hunt and kill anything that isn't talk." "This one saved my life," Yuna reminded him. "It chose to protect me from a native predator. That shows it can make its own choices." Researcher Jin stepped forward with a data pad. "The initial scans are fascinating, Captain. Its biology is a mix of natural development and artificial enhancement. The talk have modified these creatures far beyond what our intelligence reports suggested." Captain Da frowned as he looked at the scans. "And it's dying." "Yes," Yuna said. "The talk build fail-safes into their war animals. Without regular chemical treatments from talk handlers, their systems break down. It's how they prevent captured units from being studied or used against them." "Or it could be a trap," Captain Da suggested. "The talk could track this thing to our ship." June shook his head. "We scanned it thoroughly for tracking devices, Captain. There are none." The room fell silent as Captain Da thought about his options. Finally, he sighed. 2 weeks, he said. "I'll give you 2 weeks to study it and stabilize its condition. Then we decide its fate." "Thank you, Captain," Yuna said, already turning back to her patient. "And Dr. Yuna," Captain Da added as he walked to the door. "If that thing shows any sign of aggression, it will be put down immediately." For the next few days, Kodu drifted in and out of consciousness. The strange medical devices attached to his body were keeping him alive, but just barely. When he was awake, he found himself in a clean white room filled with equipment he didn't recognize. The human female, Yuna, was almost always there. On the 4th day aboard the ship, Kodu woke to find Yuna smiling at him. "Good morning," she said. "I think we've had a breakthrough." Kodu watched as she held up a small injector filled with blue liquid. "Your body needs specific chemical compounds to maintain your enhanced systems," she explained in a slow, clear voice. "We've analyzed your blood and tissue samples and created a synthetic version. If this works, it should stop your body from breaking down." Kodu didn't understand her words, but he recognized the tone. It was similar to how his handlers spoke when preparing him for missions, explaining important information. But unlike them, her voice held something else: warmth, concern. When she approached with the injector, Kodu growled softly, his instincts telling him to be wary. "I know you don't trust me completely yet," Yuna said calmly. "But this will help. I promise." She didn't force the issue. Instead, she set the injector down where he could see it and stepped back, giving him a choice. After a few minutes of watching her, Kodu moved his head slightly, exposing the soft patch of skin on his neck where the TAC handlers had always injected him. Yuna smiled and slowly picked up the injector. "Thank you for trusting me," she said as she carefully administered the compound. Within hours, Kodu could feel the difference. His vision cleared. The pain that had been his constant companion for days began to fade. His body's internal diagnostics reported improvement in all systems. Over the next week, Kodu's recovery surprised everyone on the ship. Once he could walk again, Yuna began to teach him simple commands and responses. She created a special pad with symbols that Kodu could press with his paw to communicate basic needs. "His intelligence is remarkable," Yuna told researcher Jin during their daily tests. "Look at how quickly he's learning to use the communication pad." Jin nodded, impressed despite his initial fears. The brain scans suggest neural pathways far more complex than necessary for a simple attack animal. The TAC have essentially engineered sentience, then suppressed it with their conditioning. "But they treat them like disposable weapons," Yuna said, watching as Kodu carefully sorted different colored sample containers by size. "When they're damaged or no longer useful, they're abandoned to die." Kodu heard their conversation, but focused on his task. He enjoyed these simple jobs Yuna gave him. They were so different from the training exercises the TAC had used, which always involved tracking, fighting, or killing. Here, he was learning new skills and being rewarded with praise rather than the chemical rewards his old handlers had used. By the second week, Kodu had begun following Yuna around the medical bay, helping her by carrying equipment or retrieving items she needed. The security officers still watched him closely, but their hands no longer rested on their weapons when he passed. Kodu learned to trust Yuna first, then Jin, who often brought him special treats made from protein compounds that matched his dietary needs. Eventually, he even began to recognize Captain De, who sometimes came to observe his progress. When the captain entered the room, Kodu would stop what he was doing and nod his head respectfully, a behavior he had observed among the humans. "It's almost like he's trying to show he's not a threat," Captain Da commented to Yuna during one visit. "He's adaptable," Yuna replied. "He's learning our social customs." As the 2-week deadline approached, even Captain Da had to admit that the war dog was unlike anything they had expected. He called a meeting to discuss Kodu's future. "The scientific value alone justifies keeping him aboard," Jin argued. "What we learn could help us defend against TAC weapons." "And there's the ethical question," Yuna added. "If he truly possesses sentience, do we have the right to?" She was interrupted by an urgent message from the bridge. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from a TAC Imperial vessel." Everyone froze. The TAC rarely communicated directly with human ships unless making threats or demands. "Put it through to the conference room," Captain Da ordered. The large screen on the wall flickered to life, showing the stern face of a TAC commander. His gray skin and yellow eyes were similar to Kodu's, but fully sentient intelligence gleamed in his gaze. "Human vessel," the commander said in the formal translation language used between their species. "Our scans indicate you have recovered TAC military property from the battlefield on Nexus 4. Return our biomechanical unit immediately." Captain Dai stood tall. "We found an abandoned, dying creature and provided medical assistance." "That unit is classified military technology," the TAC commander replied coldly. "Its recovery is a priority for the Empire." "What happens if we return him?" Yuna asked suddenly, stepping into view of the transmission. "What will you do with him?" The TAC commander looked at her with disdain. The unit will be disassembled and studied for malfunction patterns. Its behavior deviates from programming. Yuna looked at Captain Da, her eyes pleading. Behind them, through the conference room's glass wall, they could see Kodu in the corridor, watching them with his 4 intelligent eyes. After a moment of silence, Captain Day turned back to the screen. "I'll consider your request and respond within our diplomatic time frame of 48 hours. Without waiting for the TAC's response, he cut the transmission. Then he turned to his bridge officer. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed." "Captain," the officer asked, surprised. "You heard me," Captain Daz said firmly. "I won't hand over a sentient being to be dissected, regardless of what species created it." He looked at Yuna. "Your war dog just became our first refugee from the Tuk Empire." The ship shook as another energy blast struck its shields. Captain Da gripped the command chair tightly and looked at the tactical display. The Tuk pursuit ship was gaining on them as they approached the Keras asteroid belt. "Shields at 63%, reported Officer Sunwoo from her station. Her face was tense as her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "They're jamming our communications. We can't call for help." Captain Da nodded grimly. "Take us into the asteroid field. Their larger ship will have more trouble following us through the narrow passages." The human vessel banked sharply and dove between 2 massive space rocks. The Tuk ship fired again, the energy beam glancing off the smaller asteroid and sending fragments spinning into space. In the medical bay, Kodu lay on his sleeping pad. After weeks of treatment, his body had recovered much of its strength. The synthetic compounds Dr. Yuna had created were working well. His black armored skin had regained its healthy shine, and the blue energy lines that ran through his body glowed steadily once more. The ship rocked again from another hit, but that wasn't what woke Kodu. His eyes snapped open as his sensitive nose detected something that shouldn't be there. A scent, the unique pheromones of Tuk soldiers. His former masters were on the ship. Kodu rose silently to his feet. His enhanced hearing picked up the sounds of the crew rushing about in the corridors. But there was something else. The almost silent footsteps of Tuk infiltrators moving carefully through the less used sections of the ship. How had they gotten aboard? Kodu wondered. Then he understood. The asteroid field. The Tuk must have used the cover of the space rocks to send a small boarding craft while the main ship kept the humans distracted. Kodu moved to the door of the medical bay and looked out into the empty corridor. 2 paths lay before him. He could alert the humans to the danger, or he could join his former masters. Deep in his modified brain, old programming urged him to return to the Tuk, to serve his creators. But new thoughts pushed back against this programming. Images of Yuna treating his wounds, Jin teaching him new skills, Captain Dag giving him a chance when others wanted him destroyed. The humans had saved him when the Tuk had left him to die. His decision made, Kodu moved to the nearest computer terminal. Using the communication techniques Yun had taught him, he pressed his paw against the screen in a specific pattern. The ship's internal sensors activated, showing heat signatures throughout the vessel. 2 Tuk infiltrators were moving toward the engine room, carrying what appeared to be explosive devices. Kodu knew he needed to move quickly. The corridor would take too long. He looked up at the ceiling and saw the maintenance access panel. With one powerful leap, he pushed it open and pulled himself into the narrow ventilation system. His 6 legs allowed him to move quickly through the tight space, following the shortest path to the engine room. On the bridge, Captain Dai was focused on evading the Tuk pursuit ship. "Can we reach the jump point?" he asked his navigation officer. "Not unless we can increase speed," came the reply. "And our engines are already at maximum." Unknown to them, the real danger was already inside their ship. The 2 Tuk infiltrators had reached the outer door of the engine room. They wore special suits that helped mask their presence from human sensors. One of them placed a device on the door lock, which quickly bypassed the security system. The door slid open silently. Inside, a single engineer was monitoring the control panels. Before he could react, One of the Tak struck him with a stun weapon. The engineer collapsed to the floor, unconscious but alive. "Set the charges," the lead Tak ordered. "Once their engines are disabled, the main ship can capture them easily." The second Tak nodded and began removing explosive devices from a special pack. "What about the war dog?" he asked as he worked. "Commander Guan wants it recovered intact if possible," replied the first. "Its malfunction could provide valuable data for improving the next generation of units." Above them, hidden in the ventilation shaft, Kodu listened. They were talking about him as if he were a broken machine. Rage filled him. Not the programmed battle fury the Tak had built into him, but a new personal anger. These were the people who had created him, used him, and then thrown him away. The Tak finished placing the first explosive charge on the main engine control panel. As he reached for the second device, Kodu made his move. With one powerful kick, he knocked out the ventilation grate and dropped down into the engine room, landing between the two startled infiltrators. "War dog!" exclaimed the first Tak, reaching for his weapon. "Stand down. Command override. Oberon 7 Ta." For a brief moment, Kodu felt the old programming trying to take control, urging him to obey. But something had changed in him. The human treatments, or perhaps his own growing awareness, had weakened the Tak control codes. Kodu lunged forward, knocking the weapon from the first infiltrator's hand. The second Tak fired his stun weapon, but Kodu's enhanced reflexes allowed him to dodge the blast. Using his powerful legs, he sprang at the second attacker, pinning him against the wall. The first Tak tried to reach the explosives, but Kodu swung one of his rear legs around, sweeping the infiltrator off his feet. The fight was brief but intense. When it was over, both Tak lay unconscious on the floor, and Kodu stood guard over the fallen engineer, who was beginning to stir. When the engineer saw Kodu, he gasped in fear, but the war dog made a gentle motion with his front leg and pointed to the communication panel. Understanding dawned on the engineer's face as he activated the ship-wide alert system. "Security to the engine room," he called. "Intruders neutralized. Medical assistance needed." Minutes later, the engine room was filled with security personnel and medical staff. Yuna rushed in, worried for Kodu, but stopped short when she saw him calmly sitting beside the captured infiltrators. Captain Day arrived shortly after, his face showing surprise as he took in the scene. "What happened here?" The engineer explained how he had been attacked and how Kodu had saved both him and the ship. Yuna quickly checked Kodu for injuries, finding only minor scratches in his armor. They were going to disable the ship. Kodu communicated through the simple translation device Yuna had built for him. The device translated his body movements and simple vocalizations into basic words. "The intruders have been neutralized." Captain Dai stared in amazement. "He protected us. He fought against his own creators. He chose us," Yuna corrected gently, placing her hand on Kodu's head. "He made a choice." The Tak pursuit ship eventually broke off its attack when it became clear their infiltration team had failed. With the immediate danger past, the crew gathered in the main hall to honor Kodu's actions. Captain Dai stood before the assembled crew with the war dog at his side. "Today, this being proved that he is more than a weapon," the captain announced. "He is a thinking, choosing individual who risked his life to save ours. From this day forward, he will be recognized as a crew member of this vessel, not as a specimen or a refugee." Kodu stood tall, his 4 eyes taking in the faces of the humans around him. Many had feared him at first. Some still did. But there was something new in their expressions now. Respect. For the first time in his life, Kodu had acted not because he was programmed to, not because he was ordered to, but because he wanted to. He had found a new purpose, not as a weapon of war, but as a protector. The Grand Hall of Earth's Interspecies Commission buzzed with voices. Hundreds of people filled the seats. Many more watched on screens around the world. At the center of it all sat Kodu, his massive black form looking out of place among the humans. For 3 days, the commission had been debating what to do with him. Should he be studied? Returned to the TOC? Given rights? People had many opinions. The TOC Empire classifies him as military equipment, argued Commissioner Hyun, a stern woman with gray hair. She pointed to documents on her screen. Their ambassador has filed 3 formal protests. Keeping him could be seen as an act of technological theft. It could damage our already fragile peace. Dr. Yuna sat next to Kodu, as she had for most of the proceedings. She had barely left his side since they arrived on Earth 2 weeks ago. Her hand rested protectively on his armored shoulder. But he demonstrates clear signs of sentience and free will, Yuna countered. She stood up to address the commission. Our tests show brain activity similar to human patterns of thought. He solves problems, creates art, and makes moral choices. Returning him means certain death. The TOC told us themselves they planned to disassemble him. The debate went back and forth. Scientists presented brain scans and behavior tests. Military officials warned of TOC anger. Rights activists demanded protection for Kodu. Through it all, the war dog watched quietly, taking everything in with his 4 yellow eyes. On the final day, something unexpected happened. Kodu himself asked to address the commission. There was a murmur of surprise as he walked to the center of the floor. Dr. Jin had created a better translation device that converted Kodu's unique vocalizations and body movements into human speech. The device hung from a special collar around his thick neck. Kodu stood tall, his 6 legs planted firmly. His voice came through the translator, mechanical but clear. "I was made to destroy," he said. The simple words silenced the room. "I killed because I was told to kill. I had no choice. Humans found me. Humans saved me. Humans taught me I could choose another way. Humans taught me to protect instead. I choose the second path." The hall remained quiet as Kodu continued. "I know what I was. I know what the TOC wanted me to be. But now I know what I can be." He turned his large head to look at Yuna, then back to the commission. "I asked to stay. I asked to live." That speech changed everything. News feeds shared it worldwide. People who had feared the alien war dog now saw something different, a being fighting for its right to exist. The commission's decision came the next day. Kodu would be granted provisional sentient rights, the first non-human, non-Earth creature to receive such status. He would stay with Dr. Yuna, who would continue to study him and help him adapt to life on Earth. In return, Kodu agreed to share information about TOC military strategies and technology that might help protect human worlds. The TOC Empire was furious. They cut off trade talks for 3 months. But eventually, they came back to the table. Their war with another alien race meant they couldn't afford to lose human markets. 6 months passed. Kodu's case became famous across Earth and human colonies. Other scientists began looking for similar cases, living weapons abandoned on battlefields. A specialized rescue operation formed, with Yuna as its lead advisor. Human teams began searching recently abandoned battlefields, looking for other war animals left to die. They found them, not just TOC war dogs, but other engineered creatures from different species. Some were beyond saving. Others, with proper care, began to show the same signs of emerging sentience that Kodu had displayed. A sanctuary was established on Earth's moon, where these beings could recover in safety. Kodu visited the sanctuary often. The other war animals looked to him as a guide, a pioneer who had shown them a new path. He worked with each new arrival, helping them understand that they could be more than weapons. But most evenings, Kodu could be found in Dr. Yuna's garden behind her small house near the ocean. His massive form, built for destroying life, now carefully tended plants. His claws, designed to tear through armor, gently removed weeds and turned soil. The genetic modifications that had made him a perfect killer also gave him perfect precision for handling delicate seedlings. Yuna watched from her porch as Kodu worked among her vegetables and flowers. The evening sun made his black armor glow with hints of blue where the energy lines ran beneath his skin. She still gave him the synthetic compounds his body needed, but Jin had developed a version that would last longer. Kodu would never be free of his engineered biology, but he could live with it. Sometimes, Yuna would find Kodu sitting on the hill behind her house, staring up at the stars. His 4 eyes would scan the night sky, and she wondered what he was thinking. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, she finally asked him, "Do you miss anything about your old life?" Kodu was quiet for a long moment. Then his translator beeped softly as he replied, "Nothing worth missing. There I was a thing, a tool to be used and thrown away when broken." He turned his large head to look at her. "Here, I am not a weapon. Here, I am alive." Yuna nodded, understanding. They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell. The next day brought news of 5 more war animals found alive on a distant moon. Kodu prepared to visit the sanctuary to help welcome them. Before he left, he placed a small potted plant on Yuna's desk, a rare flower he had grown from seeds. "For teaching me to grow, not destroy," his translator said. As Kodu boarded the shuttle to the moon's sanctuary, humans nodded respectfully to him. Children waved, no longer afraid of his alien appearance. He had become something no one expected. Not a trophy, not a weapon, not even just a refugee. He had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that life finds a way, even when created for death. And most of all, a testament to the power of choice. The end.